Good afternoon, students. In the last class, we have discussed National Development Policy for Disaster Management. During that, I have mentioned that there is an institutional arrangement in India for disaster management. It is an important topic, but very low topic. So you can score good marks in this topic as well as you can understand very easily this topic. Whenever disaster management comes into mind, you must be very careful and you must be think what is that? What are the different steps? Planning, prevention, mitigation, preparedness, and disaster happens after the response, recovery, and rehabilitation. These are the steps to be followed for the disaster management. And here, first we will discuss what are the important points in Disaster Management Act 2005. As we have already mentioned details about 2005 Disaster Management Act, just some institutional mechanisms are there, financial arrangements are there, and capacity developments are there. So we will discuss each terms. First one is institutional mechanism in which NDMA, SDMA, DDMA, NEC, SEC, and NDRF are comes. All these themes are very important. Institutional mechanisms are very important. And for funding for the effective prevention and mitigation of disaster, we need funding, and for that, there is a National Disaster Response Fund and State Disaster Response Fund as well as District Disaster Response Fund. These are controlled by Prime Minister, Chief Minister, and District Collector respectively. The National Disaster Mitigation Fund and similar such funds at state and district level are giving required amount to the prevention and mitigation process of disaster on respective area. When in Kerala, in the last few years, we are affecting due to flood. For that, we have utilized a lot of fund for the development of cleaning of river as well as development of constructions, life mission, everything is from this financial arrangements. And for making capacity, that is the capacity development, there are structural as well as non-structural capacity development, which are built by NIDM, which is an organization mainly focusing on training and mock drills. And we have also other institutions which are part of Disaster Management Act 2005, but not directly giving, that is civil defense, fire service, and home guard. These all together are responsible for effective functioning during a disaster period. So just go through it. First one is institutional mechanism. Second one is financial arrangement, capacity development, and other institutions. In the institutional mechanism, there is National Disaster Management Authority, State Disaster Management Authority, then District Disaster Management Society, and National Executive Council as well as State Executive Council, and National Disaster Response Force are the institutional mechanism. And next comes financial arrangements. For that, we have National Disaster Response Fund, State Disaster Response Fund, and District Disaster Response Fund. And we have a training or capacity development mechanism that is known as NIDM, okay, National Institute of Disaster Management. And we have civil defense, fire service, and home guard for the support of all activities during a disaster. These things should be in your memory whenever you are speaking something about Disaster Management Act 2005. And you must remember the date of Disaster Management Act came into force, that is 23rd December 2005. According to that, we have a commission headed by Pant, and all that things which we have discussed in the previous classes should be in your memory. You are having examination in the upcoming week. Now we will discuss the institutional framework of Disaster Management Act 2005. According to 2005 Disaster Management Act, we have a legal institutional framework that includes all these areas. Just look the figure. Please, you took your notebook and mark this one. This is a very important part. Sometimes this may ask in your question paper. Don't miss a huge chance of scoring good mark. So this is an important thing. So take your notebook and mark this one. Everything is very important. Topmost thing is NDMA, which is comes under central government, and NDMA is connected with SDMA, that is State Disaster Management Authority, and which is controlled by state government as well as Disaster Management Department of State. And we have NDMA, which is controlled by MHA, that is Ministry of Human Relations, that is Human Affairs, and there will be some agency, why actually NIDM as well as NDRF. This NDRF is controlled by MHA as well as NDMA. But NIDM having no direct contact with NDMA, but they have take guidelines from NDMA. The major ministry is MHA, which is controlled by central government, and that is the responsible for controlling NDMA, NDRF, and NIDM. This is the nodal ministry. And NDMA will give instructions to a National Executive Committee chair, which consists of all ministries of central government, as well as there will be having a chairman for a National Executive Committee. And also, when we are coming to the next stage, that is State Disaster Management Authority, that is controlled by state government or Disaster Management Department of state government. Both way, the state government will force on SDMA, and SDMA will give instructions or guidelines to the State Executive Committee Chair or CS, and which consists of ministries of state government. If Kerala means Kerala ministers will be the part of State Executive Committee, and headed will be a chairman. National Executive Committee will be with the 14 ministers of India, that cabinet ministers, as well as higher officials of Army, Navy, everyone will be in the National Executive Committee. And state government will completely control district administration. In district level, SDMA having a subdivision known as District Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the district collector or magistrate. So the State Executive Committee having a great role in building DDMA, as well as district administration also will be having a control over DDMA. In a district, if there is any disaster chance or disaster happens, the immediate work will be start from DDMA, and that will control Panchayat and municipality, which controls under district administration. This is the framework or legal institutional framework of disaster management in India. Again, you must draw this figure, very important figure. You must get full marks if such question asks you. First one is central government, state government, district administration, panchayat and municipality. This is the general structure of our government. There is an Indian central government. Kerala means Kerala state government. There will be district administration, that is Kannur means Kannur district administration, and there will be panchayat as well as municipalities. In Kannur, there are different municipalities, including Kannur, Talisheri, Taliparamba, Payyannur, Iriti, everything. That's comes under municipality, and panchayat will be a local place similar to municipality that is headed by panchayat president. So this is a general government structure, and when disaster management considered, this will be the NDMA will be the topmost position, SDMA will be the state department, and DDMA will be the district level. So this is the three position, and MHA is the Ministry of Human Affairs, will be responsible or nodal ministry for controlling all disaster management activity. And this MHA will control NDMA, NDRF, and NIDF. All these are central institutions which takes part in disaster management activities in different levels. The NDMA will control all the activities, or national authority is the NDMA, and NDRF will act at the response level, that is when disaster happens, rescue, evacuation, everything will be done by NDRF. And NIDM is a training agency that provide training, capacity development, and provide mock drills and prepare the people to face a disaster. These are the important part, and also there will be in some department, in some state government, there will be a specific department known as disaster management department. It is not active in different states according to the effect of disaster, whether that is under zone of disaster or not. According to that only, whether the state government require a ministry on disaster management will be decided. In some states, there will not be any DMD, so such state government directly control SDM. These are the important institutional framework. Have you drawn this one? Please draw this structure in your notebook. It's very important. You won't get it from Google. Please draw the figure. Okay, hope you have completed. So we will go to next slide. So institutional framework is this part, and there will be a DM structure, that is disaster management structure, at the center, state level, and district level. And the topmost position will be handled by whom? That will be explained in this slide. In the framework, you can see that the disaster management structure having the apex body is NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. And the head of this body of NDMA is Prime Minister. The person is known as chairperson. NDMA is an apex body of disaster management with Prime Minister as chairman or chairperson. And a National Executive Council is made for the support of NDMA with the secretariat of 14 ministers and chief minister of, so chief of integrated defense staff function as executive committee in NDMA. You can see that there is NDMA apex body, the chairperson is prime minister, and there will be a national executive committee with having 14 ministry secretary and chief of integrated defense staff function as a executive committee of NDMA. This NDMA will get receive information, guidelines, everything by combining with National Executive Committee, and the National Executive Committee may give the national plan which should be submitted to the NDMA for the approval. And at the center, there will be a central ministers, central disaster management authority for the control of all disaster management activities. There will be an MHA, Department of, Ministry of Human Affairs, and is an example of nodal ministry at the center. And there will be two institutions under center department. That is, first one is National Institute of Disaster Management, which is used for training the community as well as provide instruction or provide a practical condition like mock drill for the vulnerable community in a local area. And National Disaster Response Force is an agency at center working at the time of disaster or incident of disaster. They will take part in the action to rescue the people, recover the people, as well as evacuate the people and save their life during a major or minor disaster. And state level, when we are coming to state level, there will be a state disaster management authority, just like NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, but the chairperson will be chief minister itself. In Kerala means the chief minister is Pinarayi Vijayan right now. He will be the head of SDMA or State Disaster Management Authority. And there will be a state executive committee which includes major ministers, that is Secretariat of Ministers, as well as major portion or major police members. Everyone will be the executive committee members. As well as then comes the district level, which is the lowmost level, that is TDMA, that is District Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the district magistrate or collector. And he will be the interface between government as well as public. We have discussed some challenges in India for the disaster management. The major problem is the government having a national plan and the people having their own priorities. So there is a chance of mismatching the priority of people as well as the national policy. This is handled by the district level, headed by the district magistrate. They will handle the public as well as the government for the proper and effective conduction of disaster management. And we have already discussed, but you need to remember this one, that National Disaster Management Authority has been set up as an apex body of disaster management in India with Prime Minister as chairman, which is the apex body. And disaster management authority will be set up in state and district level to be headed by chief minister and collectors or Jilla Parishad chairman respectively. And we have to look forward to this area, that is some ministries are responsible for disaster management. We have to look all those ministries. As we know that drought is a major problem in India. The drought is a disaster due to lack of rainfall or lack of water availability. Anything may cause drought. That will definitely affect the agricultural fields in India. So the Ministry of Agriculture will be responsible for the effective functioning or controlling drought in India. So for that, they will provide new ways of water transportation to the area where water is lagging, as well as the agricultural plants are shutting down. So that should be responsible. That drought should be controlled by the Ministry of Agriculture. Main second one is epidemic and biological disaster. As we are suffering now due to COVID-19 pandemic, okay, sorry for the delay. Epidemic and biological disaster are the second one. Currently, we are facing this epidemic and biological disaster, and we all know that, and someone in our classroom also having that COVID-19 pandemic, effect of COVID-19. So, due to COVID-19 or such pandemic or epidemics, the responsibility is belonging to Ministry of Health. But the nodal agency, that is NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, will give required guidelines and lay down for the Ministry of Health to overcome epidemics and biological disaster. During such activities, the health department must have a lot of fund requirement for the purpose of PPE kit for epidemics when we are coming to COVID pandemic, PPE kits, medicines, gloves, masks, as well as vaccination. The Department of Health require a lot of funding. These funding requests will be submitted by Health Department to the National Disaster Management Authority, and they will recommend this letter for the funding to the National Disaster Management Funding Agency, comes under central government. They will look into the quotation and they will decide how much money should be sanctioned. This is the epidemic and biological disaster controlled by Ministry of Health Department. I have explained much more required than uh, I have mentioned here. And comes chemical disaster. Normally, chemical disasters are common in industries because in industries there is a chance of chemical escape from the industry unknowingly or for because of unskilled labor in the industry or due to failure of any equipments or machine or mechanism. So this chemical disaster should be the responsibility of Ministry of Environment. So whenever an industry starts or functioning or continuously running, the Ministry of Environment should give the fitness certificate for the industry. They will look the condition of industries continuously and then only they will sanction the working permit. And comes nuclear accident and leakage. Say in India, there are different or multiple nuclear power plants in different locations of India. If we are considering the nearer one is Kaiga in Karnataka and Tarapur in Mumbai, that is Maharashtra, as well as that is Tamil Nadu. There is something I forgot that name. Kudankulam, somewhere. So all these things are controlled by Department of Atomic Energy in India. And this leakage, nuclear leakage may cause very big issue for the environment as well as the people living very nearer to that place. So nuclear accidents and leakage are responsible by the Ministry of Atomic Energy. And we have common railway accidents, We can see a lot of accident, railway train accidents in India, and that is controlled by Ministry of Railways. The railway accidents may be due to the ignorance of the loco pilot as well as the passenger, or due to some errors or technical issues in the moving part, maybe due to failure of electric supply or due to some other reason. These all are controlled, and the ministry responsible for railway accident are Ministry of Railways. And we have air accidents, as we that is common in our India. Even the last year we have faced such incident in Calicut airport, and international flight from Arabic country came to Calicut and fall down due to problem in the view of the pilot. So that's an example of air accident, and all such air accidents are controlled, and the responsible ministry will be civil aviation. You must be very careful. You must remember such ministry names, common one. And when you are coming to the last one, that is natural disaster and civil stressings are comes under MHA directly. That is Ministry of Home Affairs. That is the nodal ministry to control disaster or manage disaster is Ministry of Home and Affairs. And these are the total structure which you can understand easily. Drought is controlled by Ministry of Agriculture, epidemics and biological disaster by the Health Department, chemical disaster by Ministry of Environment, nuclear accidents and leakage by Atomic Department, and air accidents by Ministry of Civil Aviation, railway accident by Ministry of Railways, and finally natural disasters by Home Affairs. These are the common ministry responsible for disaster management, and all these ministries to be controlled during a disaster by a NTMA, that is National Disaster Management Authority, headed by Prime Minister of India. And we have some technological input nodal agency for forecasting early warning disseminations. That is, if we are having a knowledge that there is a chance of disaster early, then we have to do the necessary preparedness for the controlling of that disaster. For that, we have some ministry responsible for identification or forecasting of disasters early. That is, if the cyclone is coming to India or there is a chance of cyclone in India, that will be controlled by or informed, forecasted by Indian Meteorological Department. Indian Meteorological Department will forecast the chance of cyclone in India. Every year, every time they are continuously watching the chances of cyclone in India. And tsunami in 2005, we have been suffered a lot due to tsunami. The coastal line of Tamil Nadu as well as Kerala may affected severely due to tsunami. After that, tsunami has been added as a disaster in India, and the nodal agency who is trying to forecast the effect, chance of tsunami is Indian National Center for Oceanic Information Services. This agency is responsible for determining whether there is a chance of tsunami. And earthquakes. Earthquakes are common in Indian subcontinent because our place is very much moving one and hitting to the Himalayan plateau. So this is very important. There's a chance of earthquake, heavy, severe earthquakes in India. That should be forecasted by India Meteorological Department. All these three agencies, that is cyclone determining and tsunami determining and earthquake determining agencies, namely Indian Meteorological Department, Indian National Center for Oceanic Information Services, are comes under Earth Sciences, Ministry of Earth Sciences, and flood. flood is common in Kerala. For the last 3 years, we are continuously affected by floods, and the forecasting of flood is done by Central Water Commission. And the ministry is responsible for floods control, or Central Water Commission agency is Ministry of Water Resource. And there is a chance of landslides, and we are having such situation in Kerala for the last few years. And the Geological Survey of India will forecast the chance of landsliding in India. Even forecasting has been done, we cannot prevent that disaster because landsliding is a natural disaster that will happen. So we can mitigate the effect of disaster by the forecasting of landsliding by Geological Survey of India. And the Department of Mines are responsible for finding disaster like landsliding. And avalanche, we have already discussed what is avalanche, and avalanche will be determined by DRDO, the Defense Department's DRDO, and they will give important notification about avalanche formation, everything as early as possible. Okay, and we have already discussed that there is a national disaster response force in India, which is an important action force which having different tasks and having a battalion of 10 numbers, and the tasks specialized by them are specialized response during disaster, that is evacuation, relief, saving of life, everything should be done by the disaster response force, that is NDRF. And they should be well equipped. They should be having the well equipments, that is fire force, police, militants should have their own equipments for the rescue operation, as well as they should be trained as well to act in a disaster situation. And these people should assist in community training and preparedness even before the hit of disaster. That is, if we are convinced that if there is a sure chance of disaster in a location, the NDRF people will come there and train the people, local people and volunteers how to work during a disaster. And the impart basic and operational level training to state disaster response force like police, civil defense, home guards are done by this NDRF people because they are well trained. They have been put in a separate department because of acting in different kinds of disaster situations. They will be well trained to train other people like police and civil defense and home guard to act in a disaster situation. And we have to do license, pronouncements, rehearsals, and mock drill for the working practice, practical experience of disaster. And that's also done during a disaster time by the NDRF people. And there will be state level team that is known as state disaster response force, as well as the capacity building for fire service and civil defense. These altogether known as response and rescue team. And you can see the figure of India with different NDRF battalions. There are 10 battalions in India, NDRF battalions. So very nearer one to us is Chennai, Arakonam. There is Vijayawada, there is NDRF battalion. Bhubaneswar, there is a battalion. Kolkata, there is a battalion. Guwahati, there is a battalion. Patna, there is a battalion. Batinida, there is a battalion, and Ghaziabad, Vadodara, and Pune. These 10 are the battalions of National Disaster Response Force and who will be responsible during a disaster situation. Thank you for listening us. It's a very important topic. Don't forget, they will ask the institutional framework in the upcoming examination. Definitely they may ask. So be prepared for that. Please put your attendance in the comment window. Please put your attendance in the comment window. I am continuously updating in line wise your attendance, so please check after the class. Please check your attendance after the class.
Sir, series exam important ആണല്ലോ.
മൂന്നാമത്തെ നാലാമത്തെ മൊഡ്യൂള് ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് എല്ലാം തന്നെ ഉണ്ടാവും. അല്ലാതെ എങ്ങനെ ഇപ്പൊ പറയാം?
പാർട്ട് ബിന്റെ ഏതെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ
ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലല്ലോ.